finishing off on anything to do with the SEC. So we got to talk about the Trevon thing a little bit more in detail for a moment here. So
Okay.
first came out. So I guess he was in Twitter jail or something. I don't know. I don't know if he, I think he was off YouTube maybe for a little bit too. And, Trevon, first off, been in crypto a very long time. There's obviously the drama that happened with BitConnect, which you talked about a little bit earlier. Highly controversial guy, liked by some, not liked by others. I don't think you or I really come out strongly here nor there. But he was just taken in by local authorities. And I guess I'm not really doxing him. I think he kind of has already done that himself, but in South Carolina. And at first, so there was this whole thing going around that it was because of him, the joke you made earlier. So filming the highest of stakes and putting it up in his whatever private group or something. Hey, it looked to me like there was a screenshot of Trevon himself actually saying that, but then deleted it. So no idea of the validity of that. Really don't care about that at all. But then to Trevon's credit, he came on, talked about what really occurred. Basically that he got a subpoena to appear to give, I guess, like a deposition essentially on this issue in the SEC going after Richard Hart and basically grill him on questions they've already grilled him about in the past. He's been vocal about this in the past whenever it's happened, asking him about, PulseChain, HEX, whether he's been paid to talk about it, maybe the sacrifice phase. I don't even remember what else. And I think Trevon's main beef was at the beginning of that whole thing. It says that he was invited to said event, which, terrible terminology. I'm not really sure who it helps out by the entity saying that they're inviting you to something when you're being subpoenaed. Regardless, probably should have read the whole thing and actually saw what was on the back anyway. So I guess when he didn't respond to it, he was taken in, was in jail for a couple of days, apparently. So, they're basically continuing to try to get dirt on Richard Hart that is not true. Trevon told him the same thing that he said a million other times. What do you make of it? And, it's complicated. I mean, it doesn't really matter, I guess, what I think or what any individual thinks. But, like, I empathize a lot with Trevon. Like, he was actually getting almost emotional, I think, when he was talking about this on stream the other day when I was watching him. But at the same time, I feel like he does kind of put himself out there more than most, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I'm not saying that makes him a criminal. It doesn't in that sense, but he's just more visible is all I'm saying. That's all. But regardless, I mean, it's nice that he obviously went in, told everybody the truth, told him what he knows and everything. But I get it. He feels like, how can I ever talk about this stuff again? Because they've got, talk about choke point. I mean, they basically, he's the guy they're just going to keep bringing in. So, what were your thoughts on this whole situation?
So just knowing Trevon's history, again, he had been brought in before. He knows well enough, or should know well enough, to read that over and know that they probably wouldn't serve him with paperwork that was an invitation. That's my first thought. He should have, at least, if he wasn't sure, had somebody look over it or even read through it all, because I'm sure it said something later on in the paperwork that, he was due to appear. It wasn't an invitation. It wasn't an optional type thing. And that's why he got picked up. You're right. He is vocal. He puts himself out there. But again, he should have had the wherewithal to know, to read it or have somebody else read it. I'm sure he's got a lawyer or somebody that he could have taken it to and said, hey, what do I got to do? He's not dumb. He may play stupid sometimes, but he's not dumb. And, I do sometimes feel bad, but again, you kind of have to understand that a lot of people kind of bring things on themselves. Was he treated fairly by a lot of people and people still call him a scammer from the BitConnect days? Yeah. He made a lot of money from a lot of people who lost a lot of money. He got a new house, he got a new car. He definitely profited in that deal. So he also took a lot of profits. So, it goes both ways. I do kind of feel bad for him, but again,
Mm.
I think he's smart enough and been around long enough to know that, he needed to look into that. And you don't just take something when someone comes to your door and hands you a piece of paper, you're being served. You should probably read it, and show up. Now, it was good that he talked, he told the truth, whatever. We'll say it again. We're not being paid to talk about the things we like,
Being paid by
nor
YouTube. That's
nor
pretty much it. Yeah.
yeah, we get a check from YouTube every month. But you know, as with any of the people that are in this community, nobody's received money. To the best of my knowledge, nobody's been paid anything. So, Hexologist had to buy the man lunch. He wouldn't even splurge on a lunch with him when he met with Richard. So, you know, anyway, I digress. I'm getting off the subject, but yeah, I do feel I do feel for him. Again, some of the things he's brought on himself, and but where do you go from there, right? I mean, I've heard he's kind of gone dark and not talked. I don't know if he's made any videos since then. I forget who it was in the. Oh, Andrew said it. He said he's out. He's going dark, and I don't know if he's made any videos since the other day when he made that one or not. I haven't seen anything. I don't really follow a whole lot. I see some of the stuff. He has a presence on Twitter. He's on YouTube, and it comes up in the algorithm often enough. But yeah, I mean, again, he should have read it. He should have had somebody else read it.
Definitely.
And anytime you get served with a paper, if you're not sure exactly what it says, you should always have somebody look over it. And that is advice. If you don't understand it, find someone who does, because one of the last thing you want to do is have them come knocking on your door because you didn't show up somewhere and get arrested on a Friday. And guess what? You're not getting out till Monday. Usually, they don't, make it a habit of letting people out of jail for failure to show up at some sort of hearing that you were supposed to be at, until they're back in the office on Monday. You'll stay there all
Right.
weekend. So
Yeah, and to your point earlier, I mean, like I would think that he has an attorney of some sort. I mean, if he doesn't by now, he absolutely should, because they're clearly
yeah,
fucking with him.
yeah,
And that I do feel for him on that front, that they're
sure,
continuously going after him. So I mean, he has to have some kind of representation, and I'm sure he can afford it. So why not?
yeah.
Real quick on this point, I don't think there's any chance of this, but that Pulse play in the chat says, thoughts on if RH ghosts this meeting, no shows with no counsel. I think there's no chance of that. I mean, that would be not smart. I don't think
that?
it was 2 comments ago, that Pulse player.
Oh,
I don't see that happening. Now again, I personally don't even really think Richard Hart will be in attendance on the teleconference or whatever it is. But I think his counsel will be there, and I think that they'll want to get a stern message across to the SEC and to the judge to show how serious they are. And I think they want to embarrass the SEC, frankly.
yeah.
And
I think that comment goes back to, when you look at Richard's profile on Twitter, Richard doesn't read anything, kind of that comment. I do think that he has probably gotten his paperwork or whatever it may be. I think that's I don't see that happening. Richard may not be there. Like I said, I think he dials in. I think he listens. He's
maybe listens. Yeah.
Or he's with his attorneys while they're on maybe speakerphone or whatever it may be. But yeah, I think he'll be a part of it. You just may not know he's there.